I recently started working as a matchmaker at a dating agency. While checking our dating groups, I was shocked to find my husband's profile with the note, "Still married but looking wife and fertile, seeking a beautiful Gen Z woman who can have children." I've been keeping his infertility a secret to spare his feelings. Yet here he is, assuming I'm the infertile one, secretly looking for his next wife. While I was still processing this, my colleague Sarah forwarded me another profile to review. Gen Z escort, recently pregnant, urgently seeking wealthy husband, must have stable career and good income. She asked me to find a match for her quickly, given her delicate situation. Looking at both profiles, him wanting a young woman who can give him children, her needing someone well off to take responsibility, they seemed like a perfect match. I silently decided to play matchmaker for these two. Fortunately, I was using a new WeChat account specifically created for work, so my husband had no idea the matchmaker he was talking to was actually me. I changed my WeChat name to Moonlight Matchmaker and sent him a private message. "Mr. James, hello. I'm your assigned matchmaker. I'd like to send you profiles and photos of some potential matches. Please let me know which ones interest you and I can arrange meetings." His reply was quick and brief. "Send them." I carefully repackaged Lucy Lynn's profile, the escort, to match James's preferences, mixing it in with several other candidates' profiles. As expected, among all the profiles, he picked Lucy Lynn and another beautiful woman, Jane Zhang, expressing interest in meeting both. Jane's photos were ones I had digitally enhanced. After getting consent from both Lucy and Jane, I started arranging their meetings. I scheduled James's first meeting with Jane at an upscale restaurant, candlelight, wine, the perfect romantic setting. When James arrived, eagerly anticipating his date with a beauty, Jane appeared. Though dressed youthfully, her wrinkles and age spots caught James completely off guard. She looked nothing like her enhanced photos. And she was definitely not Gen Z as claimed. Jane had lied about her age. James was furious and sent me an angry message. "Those heavily edited photos, have you matchmakers lost all sense of ethics? The agency better pay for this dinner. I'm canceling the next meeting too." I expected this reaction and tried to calm him down. "Mr. Yu, since you're already here, why not give it a chance? I've only seen Jane's photos myself, but I've met Lucy in person. I can guarantee her photos are authentic. If Lucy doesn't match her photos, I'll refund your entire membership fee." He reluctantly stayed, grumbling. But the moment Lucy appeared in her elegant white dress, he was completely mesmerized. Without the unfavorable comparison, he might not have been so instantly captivated by Lucy's youthful beauty. James was quite successful for his age. 28, he was already an executive assistant at a well-known public company at director level, earning over $100,000 annually, perfectly matching Lucy's requirements. Lucy was clearly pleased. Her professional habits kicked in as she started subtly flirting with James, making me nervous as I watched from my corner table under a baseball cap. Being too forward too soon could scare him away. Lucy was probably used to conquering men with her physical charms. But in reality, men like James prefer to be the pursuers, gradually guiding shy women to open up to them. I kept messaging Lucy, tone it down, tone it down. Don't act like a predator, be the prey and let him hunt." Finally getting the message, Lucy abandoned her plan to invite James to a hotel after dinner, and instead played coy while exchanging contact information. I sighed with relief, then realized the absurdity of teaching another woman how to effectively seduce my own husband. It sounded somewhat neurotic. After watching them leave the restaurant, I packed up and headed home. I arrived before James, who was still dropping Lucy off. When he got home, he was in a good mood and initiated conversation. "How's the new job working out?" Getting used to it? Well, tidying up, I replied casually. It's fine. Most of my income is commission-based. That's so unstable, Ruby. You need a proper career plan. What if you can't rely on me in the future? I've always worked on commission and I earn as much as you do. Besides, what do you mean can't rely on you? He avoided eye contact nervously. I mean, what if I get laid off or something? I thought to myself, I hope you do get laid off. He was probably feeling self-righteous, thinking he was being kind by giving me career advice before abandoning me. I stopped cleaning and asked with a smile, Honey, do you think we'll get divorced? He frantically searched for the TV remote on the coffee table, exclaiming, Hey, where's the remote? Have you seen it? Men are always like this. When they don't want to answer a question, they pretend they didn't hear it and change the subject. But I already had my answer. And he would get exactly what he deserved. James lounged against the headboard, grinning from ear to ear as he chatted on his social media apps, occasionally letting out silly giggles. Meanwhile, I was still working overtime, meticulously coaching Lucy on how to chat with James word by word. I knew James inside and out, exactly what kind of subtle flirting would excite him. The process was simple. Lucy would screenshot James's messages, I'd craft the perfect response based on what I knew he'd like, and she'd copy-paste my words back to him. Lucy kept praising me while sending screenshots. Ruby, you're amazing at this. Your VIP service is incredible. If things work out with James, I'll definitely refer more clients to you. Truth be told, I don't provide this level of service to every VIP client. James, looking like a lovesick teenager beside me, would probably never realize that he was actually chatting with his own wife. There was a certain satisfaction in making a fool of him that slightly dulled my anger at his betrayal. Still grinning like an idiot, James suddenly leaned towards me. Honey, what are you working on? I quickly tilted my phone away, the privacy screen showing only a dark reflection. Ironic how I was the one acting guilty when he was the one having an affair. I put on an exhausted expression. What else? Working overtime. In commission-based work, you have to be available for clients 24/7. He smiled sweetly. You work so hard, honey. Hey, are you free tomorrow to help me pick out a designer bag? I need to get one for a female client boss's orders. I don't know what women like. Could you help me choose? Clearly, tonight's chat had progressed quickly if he was already planning to buy Lucy a designer bag. I gave him a non-committal smile. Sorry, too busy. No wonder he made it to executive assistant. I had to admire his shamelessness, asking his current wife to pick out a designer bag for his potential future wife. Even I, who sweet-talks clients daily for large commissions, couldn't match that level of audacity. Lucy soon received the designer bag from James. It was identical to the latest model I'd bought last month. Delighted with the gift, she consulted me before finally yielding to James's persistent advances after 2 days, reluctantly agreeing to meet him at a hotel. Once that line was crossed, things escalated quickly. James started staying out most nights. A few days later, he began using business trips as an excuse and didn't come home for 2 weeks straight. On his rare appearances at home, he'd pick fights over trivial matters, argue, and give me the silent treatment. Nearly a month later, Lucy told James she was pregnant and asked about marriage. 2 days after that, Lucy came to bring wedding candies, announcing she'd accepted James's proposal. She thanked our agency for finding her such a perfect match. She pressed a red envelope into my hands. Ruby, please accept this. I'd never have landed such a great husband without you. James is wealthy and generous, so don't feel bad about taking it. She added wistfully. My previous relationship was with a married businessman who had to be secretive about buying me things because of his wife. But James? He spends freely on me without hesitation. I didn't hesitate to accept the thick envelope, at least $2,000 inside. How absurd that this woman was using my family's money to thank me for matchmaking her with my own husband. The fish had grown big enough. It's time to pull in the net. That evening when James came home, he picked another fight, this time about slipping on the floor I'd mopped. I knew his game provoked me until I storm off to my parents' house, then use that as grounds for divorce, followed by a quick marriage to his pregnant girlfriend. Clever bastard, thinking he could get rid of me so easily. Dream on. We bought this house after marriage. His family hadn't contributed a penny, and I'd been paying half the mortgage. Why should I leave our home just because of an argument while he gets to keep it? Ladies, remember this. When fighting, do what I'm about to do, kick the man out. Don't foolishly retreat to your parents' house and give him space. Playing into his expectations, I walked to the front door, flung it open, and shouted, "Stay if you want, or get the hell out. You're complaining about my mopping? Get out. Get out of my sight." He froze, stunned that I was kicking him out. Through a moment, he grabbed his jacket and headed for the door. "Ruby-chan, don't regret this." I smirked as he slammed the door hard enough to shake the walls. His precious pride had driven him right out of our expensive home. Moments later, I received his message. "Ruby-chan, let's get divorced." After all this effort, it was finally time to reap what I'd sown. Did he really think divorce would be that simple? I wouldn't be Ruby-chan if I didn't make him pay dearly for this. The day after he stormed out, I had the locks changed. Lucy kept messaging me about how James took her to the hospital for prenatal checkups, gushing about what a wonderful family man he'd be. She shared photos of their house where she'd moved in, mentioning how her future mother-in-law had already moved in to take care of her. Where did James get a second house? It had to be a rental. I wondered how Lucy would react when she discovered the truth about the rental property. She continued sharing her happiness, asking me, "Ruby, you're experienced. Don't you think men who love children make the best husbands?" I replied that maybe so, and she should hold on to such a wonderful man. She continued, "I must have saved the galaxy in my past life to find happiness after years of being the other woman. I don't even believe in karma anymore. You know, when my previous lover's wife discovered us, we got into a fight and she miscarried. I used to have nightmares, worried my own child would face bad karma. But James treasures both me and the baby, so I can finally relax. What had I done to make her trust me enough to repeatedly confess her past as a mistress? I was destined to betray that trust." Mid-conversation, James called, demanding, "Ruby-chan, what's the meaning of this? Why did you change the locks? Wasn't he supposed to be at the hospital with Lucy? How did he know about the locks?" Then it hit me. Before I could speak, he continued yelling, "Mom's there with the divorce papers. Open the door now." Of course, my mother-in-law had shown up unannounced as usual with her spare key. She never bothered to call ahead, as if it would kill her to give notice. Serves her right to find her key doesn't work anymore. I told him I was at work and couldn't open the door, then hung up. He called back immediately. "Ruby-chan, is that even a real job? Go home and let Mom in right now." So in their minds, I was just a woman with a questionable job who couldn't bear children, someone to be discarded, despite earning as much as him. When I first saw his infertility diagnosis, despite wanting children myself, I'd accepted a childless future with him. I even took the blame for being infertile to spare his pride. Lesson learned: pitying men only leads to misery. I coldly replied, If your mother doesn't want to wait, she can come to my office. And I work for a legitimate company earning legal income. Don't slander my work. He was furious but helpless. Since he was the one rushing for divorce, his mother had no choice but to bring the papers to my office. When she arrived, she called me directly. "Ruby, I'm at your office reception. Where are you?" I smiled slightly. "I'm out on business. You can wait if it's urgent or come back another time." Her voice trembled with anger. "Ruby Chen, you're doing this on purpose, aren't you?" "You can't fool an old fox. I was absolutely doing this on purpose." What could she do about it? After making my mother-in-law run around town about 10 times, she ended up in the hospital needing oxygen. James stormed home to defend his mother's honor, pounding on the door so hard it drew a crowd of neighbors. I opened the door in front of everyone, striking first. "Oh, you remember where home is? Why aren't you dead somewhere with your mistress?" The neighbors craned their necks eagerly, excited by the drama unfolding. James squirmed under their judgmental stares and tried to push his way inside. "Stop making a scene. Let's talk inside." I blocked the doorway, sneering. "I'm not the one making a scene. Being cheated on isn't my fault. Why should I feel ashamed?" In our upscale neighborhood, these well-to-do residents had never seen someone so openly confront a cheating spouse. They watched, fascinated. They didn't just watch, they started hurling judgments at James. "Don't let that scumbag in. He'll dirty your floors. No amount of mopping will clean that up." James stood there, face green with embarrassment. "Since you know everything, why drag this out? What will it take to get divorced?" I pretended to think carefully. "You betrayed our love and family. I should at least keep either the money or the family. If you're willing to leave with nothing, I might consider divorce so you can marry your pregnant mistress. Of course, take your time deciding. After all, she's the pregnant one, not me. I'm in no hurry." James sneered. "You're just jealous because you can't get pregnant. Your jealousy has made you mentally ill." I shrugged it off. Words couldn't hurt me. But our righteous neighbors jumped in. "What a bastard, cheating and then insulting you. Don't give him the divorce, honey. Make him suffer. Let his mistress's child be forever known as an illegitimate bastard." As an executive assistant, James was used to either kissing up to his boss or being sucked up to by others. He'd never faced such public humiliation. He spat through gritted teeth. "Fine, Ruby Chen, you win. I'll leave with nothing. Happy now? Let's go to the civil affairs office tomorrow." He turned to leave, but I called after him. He turned back, snarling, asking if I'd changed my mind. I smiled. "No, but you said you'd leave with nothing, right? Everything you're wearing, down to your underwear, was bought by me. You shouldn't take those either, should you?" The neighbors roared with laughter, eyes gleaming with excitement as they waited for his humiliation. That's just how I am. When I love passionately. When betrayed, I seek perfect revenge. I stood there calmly, waiting to see if he'd strip naked and slink away through the crowd. Someone raised their phone to record. I cleared my throat and offered a friendly warning. To whoever's recording, keep it for personal viewing only. Sharing such content could land you in jail. Everyone doubled over with laughter. James was nearly mad with rage, his fists clenched tight. "Ruby Chen, don't push it too far." I stared straight into his eyes, stepping closer. "Yes, I am pushing it. What are you going to do about it?" James's knuckles cracked as he clenched his fists harder. A neighbor suddenly spoke up indignantly. "Girl, you're not pushing anything. He's the one who's gone too far, wearing clothes you bought while getting another woman pregnant. You're just asking for your property back. That's perfectly legal. There's nothing excessive about that. And if he tries to hit you, I'll be the first one to step in and defend you. The intense atmosphere I'd carefully built crumbled at the neighbor's earnest offer of protection. When James tried to leave, several neighbors blocked his path. What's this? Trying to walk away wearing someone else's clothes? Surrounded and humiliated, James angrily stripped off his shirt, throwing it at me, then bent down to remove his pants, tossing them to the ground. His eyes were red with shame. Happy now, Ruby-chin? I shook my head. The underwear too, I bought those as well. James snapped, lunging at me with his fist raised. Ruby-chin, would it kill you to back down? Would it? His fist was caught by one of the neighbors, who rolled up his sleeve to reveal muscled arms. Cheating scumbag, everyone wants to teach you a lesson. What makes you think you can act tough? After getting roughed up by the group, James fled in panic. The muscular ringleader grinned. Ruby, satisfied? How was our performance? More than satisfied. I handed him the thick stack of cash I'd prepared, telling them to split it among themselves. Then I treated them to dinner at a nearby restaurant. They weren't actually neighbors. I'd called them in from my hometown after James said he was coming over. Given our busy schedules, we barely knew our real neighbors, and none would waste time watching drama unfold anyway. After sending them off, I returned home to review the divorce agreement my lawyer had drafted. Satisfied with every clause, I sealed it in an envelope, ready for James to sign at the Civil Affairs office tomorrow. The next morning, I opened my door to find my mother-in-law sitting there, face dark with rage. Ruby-chan, you vicious woman. Even the devil isn't as cruel as you. My son worked so hard for that house and car. How dare you demand he leave with nothing? She created a scene, wailing and beating her palms against the ground. Everyone, come look. This barren daughter-in-law won't let my son divorce her. She wants our family line to end. Perfect. As a sales professional, I dealt with far worse. Nothing pleased me more than handling unreasonable old women throwing tantrums. I leaned against the doorframe, watching her coldly. After realizing no neighbors were coming to watch, she escalated, stomping her feet while crying even louder. Such a waste of a performance with no audience. Out of kindness, I recorded her disheveled, hysterical state and pulled up Lucy's chat, showing her my phone. Shall we let Lucy see her future mother-in-law's true face? She fell silent, stunned. Yu, how do you have Lucy's contact? How could I not? I was the matchmaker who connected her with James. I smiled sweetly. Lucy considers me her best friend, sharing everything with me. Shouldn't I return the favor? Share things like your current behavior? Or the fact that I'm James's still legal wife? She stared at me silently, like a diffused bomb. I helpfully guessed her thoughts. No response. Then let's show Lucy this tantrum. Better warn her before she ends up in my situation. She grabbed my phone, falling to her knees. Ruby, I've finally got a chance at a grandchild. Please, I'm begging you, let us go. I stepped aside, feigning shock. Why are you kneeling at my door so early? How inauspicious, leave quickly. She left reluctantly, constantly looking back. Ruby, you're a good girl. Please don't send it to Lucy, it would kill me. If I were really the good girl she claimed, they would have already destroyed me completely. I just smiled, making no promises. Let her live in constant fear. Mid-morning, James called, demanding why I hadn't shown up at the Civil Affairs office. I sent him the video of his mother's scene lying. Your mother's tantrum sent my blood pressure to 180. I collapsed outside and the doctor ordered bed rest. James snapped. Are you two women sent from heaven to torment me? Huh? Huh. I sighed softly. Ask your mother that question when you get home. Lucy was anxious lately. She told me James had a huge fight with his mother in front of her, then kicked her out. Could they be putting on an act? She asked. Maybe his mother just doesn't want to take care of me? Course not. James had snapped and confronted his mother. I felt a surge of satisfaction imagining that old woman being thrown out by her son, crying all the way back to her hometown. I asked Lucy if they'd set a wedding date. You need to lock down a good man like him quickly. She said it was planned for the 10th of next month, preparations already underway. Checking the calendar, today was the 8th, and without divorce papers by next month's 10th, James would be in a bind, either commit bigamy or find a way to stall Lucy. No wonder he was so desperate, swallowing his pride to meet my demands. Whoever genius invented the mandatory 30-day cooling-off period for divorce, during which either party's withdrawal cancels the process, had inadvertently handed me the perfect weapon. James couldn't afford to wait for a court divorce. During the cooling-off period, I tormented him mercilessly, and he didn't dare complain. Finally, he resorted to begging. Please be reasonable. Haven't I been good to you? You're getting the house, the cars, even all my post-marriage earnings that you've meticulously calculated. Haven't I been fair? Isn't this divorce mainly your fault? We're divorcing because you can't have children. You're at fault, yet I'm leaving with nothing. What more do you want? We're both civilized people. Can't we end this amicably? I'm begging you. Civilized? A cheating scumbag talking about being civilized? Amicable separation? Not in my playbook. Not tormenting him would be a betrayal of all the genuine love I'd invested over the years. On the day we were to get our divorce certificate, James, terrified I'd change my mind, followed my demands and rented 10 luxury cars to park outside our complex. Each car bore prominent banners. We're getting divorced. I'm a despicable cheater. I betrayed my wife. Marriage, think twice. Divorce, think thrice. The eye-catching displays drew crowds of residents, murmuring in amazement. James, wearing a mask, came to escort me, pleading, Is this necessary? It's just a divorce, can't we keep it low-key? I asked, Do you still want those divorce papers? Yes, whatever you say. Then take off the mask. Let everyone see the true face of a cheating scumbag. James begged to keep his mask, pleading for one last shred of dignity. I could be generous. I signaled to my hired crowd from my hometown, who immediately pelted James with eggs and rotten vegetables. He fled to the car, covered in egg yolk, as I laughed. James, you had confetti at your wedding, now eggs at your divorce. Quite the grand ceremony, isn't it? His voice trembled with barely contained rage. Let's just get to the civil affairs office. Our divorce convoy drew attention everywhere, with people taking photos and some even following us to the office. I stepped out confidently while he skulked behind his mask, his egg-stained suit drawing laughter from onlookers. I wondered what he was feeling in that moment. But for me, this divorce was absolutely satisfying. Leaving with our divorce certificates, he exhaled deeply, as if finally escaping my clutches and gaining new life. Little did he know this was just the beginning. The real retribution was only raising its curtain. On the 10th, their wedding ceremony proceeded as planned at the hotel. I attended as their matchmaker, specially invited by Lucy. She was so grateful for my matchmaking that she added a special ceremony to thank me, insisting I give them a blessing on stage. As my client, how could I refuse her request? When I arrived at the hotel, James's face turned green. He barely started to plead, "Please," when Lucy linked arms with me affectionately. "Ruby, you're here. I've saved you a seat at the main table. Your place card says Moonlight Matchmaker." James's eyes nearly popped out. We'd only communicated through messages. He never knew I was the matchmaker. Realizing how I'd played him, his face cycled through colors, but with Lucy right there, he couldn't expose me as his ex-wife. I extended my hand. "Mr. Yu, finally we meet in person. Congratulations." His expression was priceless, forcing a smile as he reached out. But before we could shake hands, my former mother-in-law charged over. "Ruby Chen, why won't your ghost leave us alone? Won't you be satisfied until you've destroyed our family?" Lucy looked confused, glancing between her and James. James, sweating profusely, quickly pulled his mother away. "Mom's having one of her episodes again. Don't mind her, I'll handle this." Lucy apologized to me. "I'm so sorry, Ruby. My mother-in-law's been acting strange since her fight with James." I smiled graciously. "Don't worry. It must be challenging dealing with such an unstable mother-in-law." Lucy laughed. "Oh, I won't have to. James is rich. He promised to hire a housekeeper right after marriage." James must be drowning in debt by now. Forget a housekeeper, they might not even make rent on that big house after the wedding. Their marriage was a minefield. I wondered which bomb would explode first. As I delivered my blessing on stage, James's friends and family whispered among themselves. Suddenly, a little girl stood up and shouted, "Auntie, why are you giving wedding blessings to Uncle and another woman? Is Uncle taking a concubine?" It was James's niece, his sister's daughter. James broke into a nervous sweat, guiltily glancing at Lucy. He was getting a taste of death by 1,000 cuts. His sister quickly covered her daughter's mouth, warning her that police arrest children who tell lies. The little girl burst into tears. James's sister hurriedly explained to a puzzled Lucy. "Sister-in-law, please don't mind her. My mother taught her to call every pretty woman auntie." James jumped in with sweet nothings to change the subject. Just as I was about to leave the stage, I received a call from an unknown number. "Are you James Yu's wife? The rent is 2 weeks overdue. Pay up immediately." Ridiculous, the landlord was calling me for rent. I replied flatly, "Wrong number. I'm not his wife." The landlord snapped. "He listed your number as emergency contact. I don't care if you're his wife or his mother. Pay the rent or get out of my property. That idiot James won't even answer his phone today." Now I was annoyed too. I'm nobody to him. His rent has nothing to do with me. The landlord was furious. "I don't care who you are," put James on the phone. I glanced at James, who was exchanging rings with Lucy, and held out my phone. "Sorry to interrupt, but your landlord is calling about the overdue rent." The successive blows finally broke James. He grabbed the phone and shouted, "To hell with your rent. It's my wedding day, my wedding day. Call about rent again and I'll wreck your property." He was about to smash the phone when I reminded him it was mine and asked for it back. Unable to vent his rage by destroying my phone, he tilted his head back, took a deep breath, and returned it to me. Lucy, already suspicious, asked, "What rent?" I couldn't lie to a bride on her wedding day. "Your marital home is rented." James listed me as his emergency contact, and now the landlord's calling me about overdue rent. Lucy's mind struggled to process this. "What? You make $120,000 a year, but our home is rented? And you're behind on rent. And why is Ruby your emergency contact? Why me? Probably force of habit. He'd written my name without thinking. Men are careless when they're doing wrong. James, who moments ago was exploding with rage, now stammered. Lucy, please think of the baby. Don't get upset, let me explain. Lucy suddenly erupted. Explain what? You poor fraud. She turned on me. I should have known better than to trust a dating agency's quality match. Were you two in this scam together? You're both frauds. Deceiving people into marriage, it's unforgivable. They'd gotten their marriage certificate yesterday, held the wedding today, and now she discovered James couldn't even pay rent. Lucy completely broke down. She needn't have. With his salary, James could rebuild given time. But Lucy, used to wealthy men, couldn't wait for James to slowly save for a house and car. She ripped off her veil and started hitting James, spewing vulgarities that shattered her carefully crafted pure image. The foulest words poured from her cherry-red lips. James endured the humiliation, alternating between begging Lucy to think of the baby and glaring at me with murderous hatred, as if he wanted to flay me alive. Hate me already? Wait until you see what's next. I pulled his infertility diagnosis from my pocket, tossing it into his arms. Oh, you left something else at my place. Just returning what's yours. First, James focused on calming Lucy about the baby, ignoring the diagnosis report while warning me to stop causing trouble. The wedding host picked up the report and, curious, read the name and diagnosis through the microphone. The gathered friends and family, already entertained by the drama, were suddenly forced to process the bombshell that James was infertile. All eyes turned to Lucy's belly. James hadn't paid attention until he heard the contents. He snatched the report from the host like a madman, trembling as he read it. His mother fainted upon hearing the news. James stared at the paper for a full 3 minutes. During these 3 minutes, Lucy's expression shifted from anger to guilt. She frowned at me. Who are you really? I smiled. Your matchmaker, his ex-wife. I came today to reveal the truth. After all, discovering each other's true nature after the wedding would be too late. Lucy spat. You vicious woman. I trusted you as my closest friend. Laughable. Who'd want to be friends with a serial homewrecker? I'm no Buddha. I don't believe every sinner can achieve instant enlightenment. I just wanted them to face their due punishment, to suffer the consequences. James grabbed Lucy, completely unhinged. Forgetting her pregnancy, he shook her violently. Lucy, whose child is this? How many men have you slept with before finding me to clean up your mess? Do you know how Ruby tortured me during our divorce because of this baby? Do you know I wanted to die every day? And now it turns out this child isn't even mine? It's some other man's bastard? Lucy, you have to die today. Will you do it yourself, or should I help you? Lucy, facing James's lion-like rage, clutched her belly and backed away, too frightened even to cry. With each step she took back, he advanced. At the stage's edge, she stepped into empty air and fell. The dark red carpet quickly soaked with bright blood. The wedding descended into chaos. I slipped away from the mess and drove out of the hotel parking lot. It was a beautiful spring day, perfect for starting my new life. 3 years later, while shopping with my current husband and our child, I saw an elderly woman with white hair collecting cardboard from garbage bins. She approached me shakily, crying about the wedding's aftermath. Lucy had miscarried and vanished from the hospital the next day, never to return. James, whether from the shock or something else, had gone insane and was now in a mental hospital. The hospital bills were enormous, and at 60 plus, she could only collect cardboard and bottles to help pay them. She begged me to remarry James and care for them both, given their pitiful state. I nearly laughed. Did she hear herself? Before leaving, she stared hungrily at our child. You have a child now, that's wonderful. Our family line continues. My husband, alarmed, quickly gathered our child into his arms and pulled me away. I think she's mentally ill too. Indeed, her pathological longing as she looked at our child made me fear she might try to snatch them. Looking back at her ragged figure, I wondered if their obsession with having a child was worth destroying themselves over. Perhaps only they could answer that question.